you could have the best technology if you don't have a good customer service, customer experience, like your business is not going to go anywhere. So we really focus on the UX. Like our customer support team is super hands-on, and we've been getting a lot of feedbacks from our customers in terms of how valuable it is that just to have somebody that we can talk to. So AI is great, but sometimes they just want to pick up the phone and be able to call someone that is going to answer those questions, right? So, that combination of technology and the human support, that's key at Traact. And, like we are getting a lot of good feedbacks from our customers, which we're trying to use in our favor.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Michel de Amorim, who is the CEO at Traact and partner at Drummond Advisors. Michel, thank you so much for being here today. Why don't we start off with you just telling everyone a little bit more about who you are, about Traact, and also about Drummond Advisors.
Sounds good. Thanks, John, for having me today. Thanks, hello, everyone. As you mentioned, Michel de Amorim, I have a tough role today, leading Traact, which is a technology company focusing on legal tech. And I'm a partner at Drummond Advisors, and been in that journey for the past 13 years or so. I'm based in Miami, originally from Brazil. I've been in the US for 17 years now. So entrepreneur, but as an immigrant in a foreign country, always face some challenges. We've been through a lot. So I'll start with the journey, what Drummond Advisor does, and how we help businesses in the US. So basically, we focus on cross-border transactions. So mostly dealing with foreign investors and foreign business trying to establish their operations in the US. I'm a CPA as well, so we do a lot of tax advisory, in terms of how to position the company in a way that they can, be tax efficient and also, business oriented. So we've been doing that for this year. Drummond Advisors turns 15 years old, so it's a big mark. We have helped over 10,000 customers, both individuals and businesses. So, different industries. So we learn a little bit of everything. From real estate to technology to service businesses and everything else that, goes along. So we do from tax planning, business formation, bookkeeping services, BPO, tax returns, and, sales tax, state compliance. So, payroll services. So, we can help, in all these different areas, and the concept of one-stop shop, especially for, foreign companies trying to establish in the US, trying to get the feet wet, so we can minimize the cost of having to hire, like a local accountant, so they have to hire like an admin team, a person on the finance team, so we can outsource all those services. And so that's kind of like what we've been doing, throughout this time. And again, the company grew a lot. I came on board Drummond. The company basically had 3 employees back in 2013. I met Bruno, my partner. It's a funny story at the airport.
I'm going to ask you,
like randomly, like an immigration line in the Manaus airport in Brazil. I was going down there for a project, and he was, back and forth from Manaus back then. So we start chatting a little bit, and like after all this time, we're still here, partnership. So that was a great story because he ran. I saw him talking to pretty much everyone in that immigration line, and he came to me. I was like, okay, I was tired. I wasn't really in the mood for a conversation, but anyway. So we had a great talk, and he was like, "Oh, you do, do you mind, available for lunch?" I was like, "Well, yeah." So we went out for lunch. Because I had a connection, and he was staying in Manaus. So we had a great talk, and after that we kept in touch, and basically. I was working, double shifts because I had the regular job, and I was working with him at nighttime. So that's part of, entrepreneurship, you gotta, and back then I had to take the risk. My wife was pregnant of my, first son, and, there are a lot of decisions to be made. I was like, okay, I either, do it now or, probably not gonna do it. So the company was a startup back then. It was based in Boston. and but he already had some clients in Miami, and I was coming from a consulting firm locally here. I was trying to build my portfolio of clients. So yeah, so like we started kind of like little by little, and then we we started spending more time on the road, like spend a lot of time in Latin America, kind of like doing the business development and reaching out to companies
Yeah.
before actually getting established in the US. So that helped us a lot. And also, I mean, most of our clientele are from Brazil. So the political economic scenarios of Brazil, whether bad or good, they always kept us really busy in terms of deal flow and in leagues. So we spent a lot of time, like we've been in a lot of events, mostly educating companies and investors that it's possible to do business abroad, and you don't need to be a multinational Fortune 500 company to do business abroad. And especially like in technology, I mean, most of companies they are born to be global. That it's not even an option.
Yeah.
So, but what we see that a lot of Drummond's clients that are successful, they were able to get to land their first international client, right? Like once you have your first client, then things are easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just take off because then the product's already tested in the US market. They already know that there is a demand for it, and they just
Yeah.
so but it's hard to do that remotely, right? Like, so that's what we tell clients, like a lot of time they got to be exposed to the US market. They got to understand the niche, the competition, like come to events, and just try to learn as much as they can
Yeah.
before actually making the investment. But then, I mean, it's doable. Like many companies have done it, like, and yeah, and so we've seen that trend lately, like where whether it was COVID or whenever there is a big hit in the market, people start freaking out. They say, okay, what I'm gonna do now? Whether the exchange rate is favorable or not. So if you're just focusing on your local market, like you got a lot more exposure to this type of events, right? While you're a global business, whether or not your local economy is doing well, you always have that upside of or the possibility of
Many things. Yeah, there's always so many things in factor, right? And it's great. And yeah, it's interesting. I'm very glad that you shared the story of how it all started, because I think that was one of one of the interesting things that we talked about in our first conversation. Just like in line at the airport, and then you end up talking to this guy, offers you free lunch. Who doesn't take free lunch? You go for
yeah, exactly.
how many years later you're here, and it's great to hear that. And also, you are actually I am also Brazilian, for anyone that doesn't know, so you're actually the first Brazilian guest that I have on the podcast. So it's just an iron duo here, and it's great to see someone else who is also in the entrepreneurship world, because I think, especially in Latin America, there's usually such a, I want to say, a preconceived notion that it's hard, it's impossible, and people can't reach it, and like people hold themselves back with mentality. So it's great to see someone who not only has many successful ventures in what they do with the investments, of course, with the consulting, but also now has you mentioned the very hard job at Traact, being a CEO and taking care of that in a company. So I'd love to ask you a little bit more about that. How are you finding that that role, being CEO, taking care of the company, and some of the things that you're noticing, and when it comes to attempting and increasing that growth at Traact as well?
Yeah, so Trek came kind of like as initially was an investment. I mean, over the years, because we're seeing a lot of business, through Drummond. We get exposed to different industries, as I said, and a lot of technology companies that a few years later they're worth like billions of dollars, and we're like, oh, I wish I had invested in it. So a couple of years ago, we started making angel investments in some of the companies, clients or not, that we were exposed to, and we came across Traact through a friend, and we liked the product. We became a customer, and then like me and my partners, we became investors. And then, because I mean there was an internal issue, restructuring aspect with the former CEO, he had to step down to deal with some personal matters. And I was part of the board, so took over the leadership role, more like with the aspect of kind of like keeping the business running, like making sure that the team is intact and trying to keep the morale up. Not being someone from the tech space, that was a challenge by itself. But like by at least, I mean, over the years we learn how to manage people. So you not necessarily need to be a technical CEO to be a CEO, right? I mean,
For sure.
you learn. So I've learned a lot over the last few months at Traact, and like just being transparent with the team. I might not have all the answers, especially the technical ones, but we're gonna help you find the solutions, right? Whether internally or we're gonna find resources, external resources. So that's what we've been doing. Also talking to investors, like this different mindset. That the speed is just a lot faster. We're in the process of fundraising, so there's a lot going on, and again, but we're building an amazing product, tailored to legal corporate departments, where they're over the years kind of like what we see, like even though the technology is out there, AI, but still you see some legal departments handling, things the way that they were doing for the past 10 years, right? They're not implementing a lot of technology. And so, the challenge is that, okay, while we're talking to legal counsels, like sometimes really old school, and we need to convince them to, retire his Excel spreadsheets to move over to a platform, and that's going to save him a bunch of time, and he's going to be able to see different integrations within the legal department, from contract management to entity management to compliance, everything in one place. So that's kind of like that's the challenge that we're trying to resolve at Traact. And yeah, I mean, we built a great team, and yeah, so we're really happy with the stage that we're at right now, and with the challenges to come. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's funny you mentioned that because I think the legal industry, I think legal, higher education, maybe construction, some they're like there's some industries that are just so held back in time. They're like, oh, we've just always done it this way, so let's just keep doing it this way. It's like
Exactly.
you have to adapt now, or else you're gonna be left behind.
Yeah. I would add accounting to that
Oh,
list.
yeah, exactly. Accounting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're seeing AI, and people are just like concerned that they're going to lose their jobs. Well, if you don't adapt technology, you might lose your job. So, like the early adapters, they're going to be ahead, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like,
Yeah, and it's not even close. So I'm glad that you guys are doing that, and it's interesting to see. I've had over, I don't know, like 250 conversations now with people, with the white paper and now the podcast, and it's just always a recurring pattern. It's just some industry that is held back in time, and that biggest obstacle is like, hey, how do we get people to really understand that you it's a little bit of a hurdle to cross to adapt, but once you adapt, then you're actually able to scale and move on and actually use it in an efficient way, as opposed to pen and paper, Excel sheets, and all these things that are just like they don't cut it anymore, and this is
yeah.
a process.
Yeah, there's a say that, I mean, if you're doing things over and over, no matter what, if you're doing repeatedly the same thing over and over, whether it's an Excel file, like there's a formula for that, or now there's an AI for that, right? Like you can build an agent for that. Even like we're talking about, sales calls, like lead generation. I mean, you name it. So yeah, Track, I mean, we take the privacy very seriously of our customers' data. So, like we are utilizing AI to an extent that we still keep the privacy, but we can optimize certain aspects of the day-to-day job of like legal counsels and legal departments. And on top of it, we're finding that partnership with accounting firms and law firms that still kind of like operate old style, like they can embed that piece of technology into their business and create efficiency. So that's kind of like what Track is focusing on. And from my background on the service provider, so like being from this, coming from a big four environment and then consulting, like that's kind of like where I come in and try to add value to Track's mission.
No, that's awesome. And how are people usually finding out about Traact? Is it mostly through word of mouth, or is there any digital presence, any paid, any organic? How does that usually work for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, mostly through referrals, but now more and more I mean, we still have the kind of like the BDR type of approach. Like we have sales, like it's our sales team trying to reach out to, folks that we thought could be, potential customers of Tract. Right now we are using external support, BDR agents. We are rebranding and, going to be doing more contact generation, social media and stuff. So yeah, different approaches, like conventions, like events focusing in the legal tech industry, and yeah, that's
Have you found
kind of a different
the
approach.
have you found that trust is a big thing when it comes to creating a lot of these relationships? Because I think it goes back to what we were saying. They are so held back in time, and for I think for accounting, legal, some of these industries, it's always just mostly been word of mouth. It's who you know, the people that you have relationships with. Is that also translating into how you're trying to approach the strategies that you have for client acquisition too?
Yeah, definitely. So, like we focus a lot on our customer experience, right? Like, so, when we talk about technology company, a lot of times people forget, and especially on the SaaS model, people forget about the last S, which is service, right? And so you could have the best technology if you don't have a good customer service, customer experience, like your business is not going to go anywhere. So we really focus on the UX, like our customer support team is super hands-on, and we've been getting a lot of feedbacks from our customers in terms of how valuable it is that that just to have somebody that they can talk to. So AI is great, but sometimes they just want to pick up the phone and be able to call someone that is going to answer those questions, right?
Yeah.
So that combination of technology and the human support, that's key
Get the
at
balance.
Traact. And like we are getting a lot of good feedbacks from our customers, which we're trying to use in our favor in terms of, okay, like we have a lot of case that we can use in terms of, hey, like through referrals, through networks, like there are a lot of kind of like group of attorneys, like particularly aspects within our niche that we try to be present, and like, but as you said, I mean, mostly referrals,
Yeah.
because of the trust piece, right? Okay, they want to know, okay, this is a startup, they've been in the market for like not so long. So are they going to be around? Are they going to be able to get funding? So at Traact, we are really trying to grow responsibly. I mean, we still need that growth path that all startups,
Yeah.
kind of are focusing on so they can get fundraising from VCs and so on. But most importantly, we're trying not to be kind of like burning cash like crazy and then be in a position that, like we don't know exactly whether we're going to have funds to pay the next payroll. So that's not the model that we run, because I come from the finance and accounting and tax background, like that's something that we're really focusing on.
Yeah.
Stick with our budget, whether we can make a move, we will. If not, we just gotta wait. So yeah, I think that's
Awesome.
it's one of the challenges of a startup, like trying to achieve cash flow positive and grow at the same time. Anyway, yeah, we don't have deep pockets behind us to keep spending, so we gotta do it carefully.
No, it's awesome. It's great insights as well. And a couple final questions here I would love to ask. Specifically, this is just an interesting one that sorry, this is just a interest that comes from me, seeing someone else who's of course from the same country who's doing really well with business and advising a lot of other companies as well, leading large teams. Is there maybe one, two lessons that you have from the entrepreneurship journey, from everything that you've been through, the challenges, the lessons from the challenges, the new ways of looking at things from the experiences that you have? Do you have maybe one or two pieces of advice or lessons that really impact you, that you hold close together to yourself and how you view growing a business?
Yeah, I mean, I personally try to take in a very always try to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. Like whether we're going through a tough situation, and I try to kind of like take a deeper dive and see what I'm learning from this situation. So like learning from the mistakes, so you don't continue making those mistakes.
Yeah.
So I think not giving up, and like being persistent,
Persistent.
that's a characteristic of like that's a skill set that we'll take it for life, right? Like
Hmm.
you're not gonna have all the answers, but you need to be creative, you need to be mindful about the possibilities and where to find those answers and connections, and so but most importantly, if you give up in the first challenge that you have, you're not gonna go that far,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, the journey is lonely. There are a lot of cliches that I could
Yeah.
be saying here, but yeah, like just try to look at the bright side and say, okay, what I'm learning from this situation, right? Like what I should be doing better, so I don't have to, to put myself in a position that we've seen a lot of things like from founders that were fully diluted in the first round because they were just hoping for a great valuation, whatever, and then they couldn't, like the company wasn't investable because of that, right? Or from, startups that were aiming too high and they hired people that, they couldn't pay the salary, right? Like, so they made commitments they couldn't fulfill with customers.
Yeah.
Like we've seen it all, right? And again, trying to learn from those mistakes. I mean, it's even better if you learn from somebody else's mistakes, right? But that's the best case scenario. But sometimes,
Less costly.
yeah. But sometimes, like you got to make some of those mistakes yourself. So, like you learn the hard way. I think that's kind of like that's part of the entrepreneurship journey, right? I mean, you always gonna be learning something new and facing a challenge, and just got to deal with it.
Yeah, I think it's I'll keep coming back to the Brazilian point, but we have the quote in Brazil is like Brazilians never give up. And it's usually like such a cliche thing, but as you said, there's so many cliche quotes, but I think it's so many times the cliche quotes are the ones that people overlook, but they are the most truthful. Like actually take them in, like never giving up or like being persistent, not looking at a challenge and saying, this challenge is bigger than me. Like, is this challenge bigger than my goals? Not really. So like just pushing forward and not having to deal with that. So I love that advice. And I have one final question here for you, Michel.
Sure.
Which is actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were. Here's the question. How often do you see that a change of strategy is worth pursuing in business?
Well, quite often that's the case. I mean, you're not gonna get it right the first time, right? So most likely you need to change the strategy along the way. So at Traact, for instance, we receive a lot of feedbacks from our customers in terms of which modules they would like to see kind of like further developed, right? Like,
Yep.
And we take those feedbacks and we put it back in our roadmap and say, okay, we talk to the end team, we talk to, like, and okay, what are we going to work next? Well, that's not me that's going to decide it, exclusively. We want to hear from our customers, hear from the market, from investors. So then we can go back, like to our end team, to design team and take it from there. So that's kind of like what we see, like happening. I mean, let's say like on a weekly basis, like on a daily basis sometimes. Like,
Yeah, but it's awesome.
you start your day thinking that, okay, I'm going to do this. When you receive a phone call, you got to change everything, right? So that happens a lot.
Yeah, but it's great. It's great to hear because it's feedback, implementation, innovation, more feedback, more implementation. It's just like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that's awesome. I love to hear it. Michel, thank you so much for your time. This has been an incredible conversation. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, maybe a little bit more about Traact or Drummond Advisors?
No, yeah. Well, you can follow us in our social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Michel de Amorim, Drummond Advisors at Traact. Thanks again for the opportunity to, like be here and, speak to entrepreneurs, young professionals, a lot of times immigrants trying to, start a business, and always willing to help. So you guys, need to reach out, have a question. Can count on me, and it was a pleasure.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'll of course leave everything down below. If you guys are interested in hearing more conversations like this, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.